Angela is applying to join the library. Listen to the conversation and complete the form below. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will never hear the recording a second time.
Hello, how can I join the library?
Well, you need to make an application. Would you like to do it now?
Yes, if I can.
One moment and I'll get the form. Now, I just need to ask you a few questions before you sign at the bottom.
Okay.
Your full name, please.
Angela Mary Price.
Price?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and your address?
Apartment 3, 86 Bridge Street, Pimlico.
Bridge Street. That's just near here, isn't it?
Yes, not very far.
Good. So the postcode must be 2065, right?
Yes, that's right.
Now, your telephone number. I need both home and work if you have them.
My home number is 8763-5142, and work is 8456-1307. Do you need anything else like ID or something?
Yes, your driver's license will do, if you have one.
Right. It's easy to remember. I know it by heart. 4040AC.
I'm afraid I'll also need to see it.
Okay, here it is.
Thanks. And your date of birth, please?
24 March 1981.
Okay, thanks. That's the most important part completed. But if you don't mind, I'd also like to ask you a few questions for a survey we're conducting.
Yes, that's okay.
Now you have some time to read questions 6 to 10. As the conversation continues, answer questions 6 to 10.
What kind of books do you like to read? Here's a list to look at.
Oh, it varies from time to time, but I always like to relax and learn about other countries I might visit one day. I don't like anything too heavy or serious, unless it's about animals or the environment. I'm not really into sport very much.
Anything else?
Well, I do like entertaining at home. You know, dinner parties. So I suppose you'll have something for me in that line. The pictures in those books always make me hungry, although they never seem to turn out exactly as they look in the books.
Fine. I think that's all I need now, except I need you to sign here on the application form. Oh, and I almost forgot. The membership fee is $20, which is refundable if you no longer stay a member.
There you are. Do I sign at the bottom here?
Yes, that's right. You can borrow books now if you wish, although your membership card won't be ready until next week. So if you want to borrow today, you can pick up your card when you return your first books. That's if you want to take some now.
I think I will, but I'll have a look around first.
Okay, take your time.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Part 2.
You will hear a woman introducing the Lunar Realm amusement park. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15.
Good morning, everyone. We're very pleased to have you here at Lunar Realm for our September Celebration Day. We have many smaller celebrations throughout the year for different events. I think it was 5 at last count. But the September celebration is a special day to honor the park's development, from tiny beginnings to the huge enterprise it is today. It's our most significant annual event. Come into the visitor center now. Over here, you can see a picture of the original park when it was under construction. The land was donated to the city in 1955 by the then mayor, Matthew Hardacre. But the park itself wasn't developed until 1979, and you'll notice it wasn't very big at that time. Then there was a huge growth in the 1990s, and we're still growing today. In the beginning, there were only a few small rides in the park. There were lots of other attractions in those days, including an adventure playground for younger kids. The kids loved the petting zoo with its farm animals, and in fact, that's the only attraction to have survived until now. We've still kept 2 of the original rides as an exhibit, but they're not in working order anymore. We're now one of the biggest amusement parks in the country. We've got an amazing range of amusement rides here, 43 in total this year. I think we're most famous for our roller coasters, aren't we? I guess you'll all have heard about the Hurricane. That's our oldest and most famous one. Some of our visitors think it's not fast enough to be truly exciting, but we love it because it's the highest wooden roller coaster in the country. Then we have the Bobcat. That one's a bit gentler for our younger visitors. And for the truly adventurous, the Scream Machine hurls you upside down and backwards at huge speeds. It's too much for me. It's important to remember that all of our rides have age guidelines, and to help you, there's a color system. If the sign for a ride is yellow, it means it's suitable for all ages, although we do recommend that parents or older siblings go with very young children. Blue means that children younger than 14 can ride only if an adult accompanies them. And black, well, this means that you must be at least 110 centimeters tall to ride, regardless of age. We should say that no rides are really suitable for children younger than 18 months, but we do have a special section for parents with babies.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20.
Now I'll tell you about the many options for food around the park. You can get a range of different cuisines, Italian, Chinese, and so on. All of that's in the food court in the center of the park. But there are lots of other places as well. If you want hamburgers, sandwiches, that sort of thing, you can find food stands everywhere. We pride ourselves on the quality of our food, and all of our vendors use fresh, healthy ingredients from local farms. Don't forget the special events we've planned for the anniversary celebration. There are 2 main events today, and they're both free. The first is the afternoon parade. It kicks off at noon, so arrive a bit early if you want a good view. The best place to see it is along the main street. It's all organized by final year school students. You'll see some gymnastics and acrobatics, hear music from a marching band, and see some fantastic floats. The parade has become one of our feature events of the year. The second big event today is an evening concert, which takes place at our main amphitheater. The concert features singing and dancing, costumes and lights, and there's a different theme each year. This year the theme is Hollywood, and it's all about classic style and old films. The concert starts at 7 p.m., but try to arrive by 6:45. Now, I know you're all eager to get out there and have fun, but before you go, I'm just going to tell you some information about safety and security. If anyone needs medical attention, We have help available. You can see on this map that next to the visitor center, which is where we are now, of course, can you see this red dot? Yes, so that is one of our 10 first aid centers. If you get hurt, all you need to do is ask a member of staff to direct you towards the nearest one. And kids, remember, if something happens, you get lost, and you can't find your parents, please tell someone who works at the park. Just look for someone dressed in the Lunar Realm colors, and they will assist you. And for anyone who has a problem of any sort, you can come and talk to a member of our security team at any one of the many guard stations. Those are the blue dots here on the map. Don't forget to take a copy of the map.
That is the end of Part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 3. Part 3.
You will hear an interview with Professor Green from a local university which enrolls a large number of overseas students in its courses. He is talking to Indra, a student representative, about the importance of attending lectures.
First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Good afternoon, Professor Green. Thank you for your time today. I wonder if you could explain why you think it is important for us to attend lectures in a course that we're studying.
Well, despite the increasing dependence on online communication these days, I do think it is important. Apart from delivering the content of the lecture itself, I believe that there are some general communication benefits from having large groups of students together in one place. For lecturers, it is an opportunity for us to address many students together at one time. For students, it helps you to feel part of the wider learning community who are following the course. You can interact with each other both before and after the lecture to discuss the ideas and content, networking with each other and comparing your notes.
But isn't most of this achieved, as you said, these days through online communication?
Well, lecturers do communicate with students online, of course, but we usually only give a summary or notes of the lecture, so there are significant differences. When you go to lectures, you get more of an insight into what the lecturer considers important. We give additional commentary and anecdotes, and by voice emphasis, we can alert you to the key concepts, theories, and issues of the subject. By not attending lectures, you might miss crucial information about what we are expecting in an assignment. You know, these extra things can make a difference.
Okay, but there are tutorials. There is a lot of interaction between students and lecturers in tutorials. Can't all this be done in tutorial discussion groups instead of having lectures?
Yes, to some extent. But during lectures, the lecturers can sensitise you to the debates and the controversies that are dealt with in the literature. This can help you think more critically about the subject. So then, when you come to the tutorial, you'll be able to come with some questions and ideas for discussion. The result of this is that the tutorial class will be more beneficial for everyone who attends.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
I see your point. However, surely this also depends on whether students are able to understand and follow the lecture well. What strategies do you recommend to help students get the most out of lectures?
I would say that first of all, it is important to do some pre-reading. By doing this, you get an orientation to the topic. You'll become familiar with the key terms and you'll be able to follow the lecture points more easily. I also think it is good to arrive early to collect handouts and to find a seat where it is easy to see and hear what is going on. Then, importantly, during the lecture itself, you need to be attentive.
I know from experience that it is often difficult to be attentive. What can students do to improve their attentiveness during the lecture?
I think that there are two keys to following a lecture successfully: using the visual cues and using active listening techniques. By maintaining eye contact with the lecturer and following how the lecturer makes use of the slides, whiteboard and so on, you are using the lecturer's visual cues, which help make the structure of the information clear and give you a sense of what's important. Then, using active listening techniques will also help you to process the information.
What do you mean by active listening techniques?
Well, you need to pay attention to the methods the lecturer uses to highlight important information. As I said before, in the spoken language of a lecture, we get the benefit of things such as stress and intonation, use of examples and anecdotes, as well as the language signals used to show relationships between ideas.
Yes, I see what you mean. These things will be missing in written summaries. And what about taking notes? Does that help?
Taking notes helps you to concentrate, so I would certainly advise you to do that. It's difficult to listen and write good notes at the same time, so it does take some training.
Yes, taking notes needs a lot of practice, I've found. Do you have any other advice?
Well, I can't finish without stressing the importance of formulating questions while you are listening. During the lecture, you should ask yourself questions about the content of the lecture and the points you are following. Ask questions like, what are the benefits or problems? What other examples are there? How does it work? Why does this happen? This will keep you focused and actively engaged in the content of the lecture.
Professor Green, thank you very much for your valuable tips and your time today.
You are very welcome.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4. You are going to hear a talk about the tall ships race in Britain.
First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
In July 1956, a fleet of 21 sailing ships from 11 countries raced each other from Torbay in Devon to Lisbon. The ships had been converted from cargo carrying to sail training ships. However, their future seemed uncertain, and the purpose of the gathering was to mark the passing of the age of the sail. What happened instead was that the sailing ships refused to say goodbye, and 2 years later they raced again, and the fleet was even larger. It was then that the title "The Tall Ships" was given to them, and the name remains today.
The original organisers, the Sail Training Ship International Race Committee, now called the Sail Training Association, saw that a new international movement had begun, adventure training under sail. As race succeeded race, it became clear that the events had more to do with bringing adventure and widening the horizons of young people than of commemorating the passing of sail. Now, sail training ships began to be specially built, and young people from all walks of life wanted to participate. Now, to compete, a vessel has to satisfy just 3 requirements. It has to have a minimum waterline length of 9.09 metres. Half its crew must be between the ages of 16 and 25, and its principal means of propulsion must be a sail. Since 1972, the race has been sponsored by Cutty Sark Scots Whisky, and it has started to attract huge crowds of spectators. In 1984, more than 250,000 people lined the River Mersey in Liverpool to watch the fleet set off. And in 1986, 2 million spectators joined Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth at Newcastle upon Tyne to watch the parade. 1989 was the year that the spectacular Cutty Sark Tall Ships Race started from London. A grand fleet of up to 100 vessels gathered on the River Thames near Tower Bridge on Tuesday the 4th of July. The only thing that the racing yachts, ancient and modern, had in common was their young crews. Few were expert sailors, and the majorities were strangers to the sea and to each other. Between Tuesday the 4th of July, when the fleet began to assemble, and Saturday the 8th of July, when the ships took part in a grand parade of sail down the River Thames, vessels were berthed on either side of Tower Bridge. Some were moored in the Pool of London, opposite the Tower of London, while others were moored to the east of Tower Bridge. Smaller vessels were accommodated in St. Catherine's Dock. Many of the larger ships were open to the public. It was an amazing and historic spectacle as the ships sailed slowly up the River Thames.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.